Hey everyone, welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson. I have a beautiful guest today, all the way from the Big Island in Hawaii. Her name is Cindi Punihaole, and she is the director of the Kahalu'u Bay Education Center, which is underneath or part of the Kohala Center. So welcome, Cindi, and thank you for joining me today.
Aloha and welcome, and I'm glad and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's so great. I was reading your story. I was so fascinated by your passion for saving the reefs and the environment, not only in Hawaii, but worldwide. And I wanted to start our conversation back in the very beginning because I really believe our childhoods imprint so many values, and your family has been a steward of those lands and educators since the 1800s. So if you could tell me a little bit about your family history out there, that would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and actually my kupuna or elders were the educators in 1848 in on the coastal areas of um, places called Kiholo on Hawaii Island and also at Holualoa or Kahalu'u, um, which is another area of the Kona coast. And as we grew up in this country setting, and at that and when I was born in the 1950s, it was really country here. We didn't have running water or electricity. I had to study by what we call a kukui lamp, or you call it a kerosene lamp, and no indoor facilities. So a lot of my education growing up was through observation, or what we call kilo, deep observation of the environment and how we manage to um, to really gauge our resources, when to take and when not to take. And for me, those things are called pono practices. These are unwritten social codes that were embedded in us through our uh, elders, and especially for me, because I was very close to my father and our family, my mom. Those things were embedded in me. So the skills that I learned for survival here was taking care of place and taking care of the ocean, taking care of the upper lands also. Hawaiians call this section the Ahupua'a, or from the mountains to the sea, because all of this mountain resources and the ocean resources are connected. Everything we do on the ocean or on the land affects the ocean, vice versa. So for me, and my dad would always say, treat your treat the land like your sweetheart, and he will always take care of you. And that is really, really important for me, because if the ships, for some reason, do not come to Hawaii, we need to look at a healthy uh, area, healthy lands to help our people sustain themselves. So the foundation is really healthy aina, or healthy land, healthy kanaka, or healthy people.
That's so beautiful. I know that your family was tending fisheries and protecting natural resources for so long. and it was a great honor for them. And it's really beautiful that you're able to continue that tradition um, into current times. I know that when you were younger, you guys were living really off the land, as you said. You were chopping firewood, you were fishing, you were growing your own foods. What was a very self-sufficient lifestyle, and you would spend your summers with your Auntie Annie. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about her influence on you. I know you said that she was one of the best fisher women around. So I'd love to hear some of the lessons that she might have imparted in wisdom when you spent that time with her.
Well, Auntie Annie was my father's mother's sister, and so we lived on what we call the Mauka lands in Kalawa, this area called Kalawa in West Hawaii. And she and her husband, Uncle Una Kealu'ula, lived in the on the coastal area. It's called Makalawena. And so we would visit her not only on vacation, but when we went to Makalawena, it was for fishing. We also replenished their water supply because in those areas the water was very minimal. Fresh water was very minimal. So most of the water that they drank was brackish water because we did not have springs or fresh water that were penetrating through that area. Unlike the other side of the island, Hilo, where we have rivers and springs, we have underground springs, but normally they are inundated with also the salt water. So it was visiting her, but providing resources from the what we call the Mauka lands or the upper lands with taro, bananas, things of that nature. We took meat, fish, not fish, but pigs and beef down to replenish their resources. So, but Auntie Annie was an amazing woman. She was one of the best fisher women during her time, on a canoe as well as on the coastal area. So she showed me how to look for different species. If you're going, for example, if you were wanting to find what we call octopus, or she would show us and show me exactly how to look for them in the shallows and how to actually catch them and remove them for sustenance. But mind you, our pono practices always came in place. We only took what we needed. We were always very aware that we needed to take care and not take everything within that certain area, because other families are coming by and also needed sustenance for their family. So as a great fisherman, we always knew how to take, when to take, and what to take. And that taught us to become our own enforcers. So we didn't need and what we call a Department of DLNR, or Land and Natural Resource Officer, citing us. Actually, we didn't even have a resource officer back in the 1950s. So we were our own enforcers. And when I was throwing my fish net, and I knew what to keep and what not to keep. And that is something that I would love to teach our children, and continue that kind of support for them, because I see a disconnection from our children today of really understanding the importance of taking care of place. And so if I could teach our children how to, it's a skill, how to throw a net, but also how to look at a spawning calendar and know when fish are spawning, when not to take them, how big they should be if you do take them, so that the others have a chance to spawn.
Yeah. The education is so huge.
It is. It is.
I also feel like somewhere along the way we've lost our spiritual connection with ourselves.
Yes.
And when you lose that connection and honoring of yourself, you lose also that connection with the land, with the ocean, with your environment, because you're unaware, you're disconnected from yourself, you know?
Yes, it's so true. One of the
I know in 1998, after being away on the mainland for a long time, you came back to Hawaii to spend time with your parents, your family. What was it like when you came back and saw what had become of the area that you'd grown up in?
Well, it was really an eye opener. You know, when I was going through high school, I always wanted to visit New York. It drew me. I had this longing to experience it. But I also looked at opportunities in our area for me to be able to make a living at home, and found that it was very limited here. In Since it was difficult, I looked for a scholarship in community schools. I was able to get a small scholarship there, and went away to university. But my heart was always here. My parents and my two siblings were away, and so my parents were really close. But over the years, I found that making friends in different parts of the country. Back east, I lived in New Jersey. I lived in California, in Washington State. Went to universities and completed my education. I found that the longing was there to come home and take care of my family, my mom and dad. And in 1998, as you said, I did return. But when I returned, I found that my mom was already going through the first phases of Alzheimer's, not understanding that. And she was young to me, she, in her 70s. And so it was such a difficult time for my mom and dad, and taking care of her and loving her, and then losing her in for me, it was a short period of time, because in 2004 she passed. And so in 2005, I'm sorry. So when I look back at not only losing that time with the ones you love, but also losing the natural resources that were there and you took advantage of when I was young, no longer there, or the amount of resources that we took for granted when we went to the coastal areas to gather food, fish, or algae, we call limu, no longer there. And the amount of visitors that were coming to Hawaii and without a form of educating how to take care of place and how important areas were, all of these things were very prominent. And I made a decision that I would like to look at creating programs that invited our visitors, but at the same time educating them on how to take care of our environment and our what we call vahipana, or precious places.
I'm amazed that that small bay was hosting like 400,000 visitors a year. I think it's is it just 4 acres?
4.2 acres.
4.2 acres hosting 400,000 visitors a year, all wearing sunscreens and in the water. I can only imagine the environmental impact of that.
And in 2006, the community approached the Kohala Center. It was really the University of Hawaii Sea Grant operation agent, Sir Peck, and the business community, the elders of the area, asking if we could help create an education or expand an education program that the University of Hawaii Sea Grant created, which was called Reef Teach. It's a wonderful program on educating our visitors how to take care of the reef etiquette. And so the Kohala Center decided, and I did give my word to the community elders that we will help them take care of place. And that Kahalu'u was also a matriarch was on my great great grandma's side. They were the teachers in 1848 for Holualoa Kahalu'u area. Their name was Kamalu. And we then started a program for Kahalu'u Bay and recruited our volunteers. And today we have over 500 volunteers from different walks of life, different areas in the world. And when they come to visit, they help support our education program. Currently, we have about 100 that are within our locality that come and help us to educate on a daily basis. So we're very, very blessed. And as our outreach program, we work with K-12 and higher, Cornell, Yale, or MIT. We educate about 1,900 students a year.
Wow.
So, and working, the most important part, I think, Wendy, is collaborating, working with partners that understand the goal of taking care and protecting what we have left of the bay. Like I mentioned to you, 90% of our cauliflower corals have died in the bay. but we have opportunities that we're working with the state, working with the county, and working with the federal government, or we can look at replenishing some of those corals that are no longer, um, you know, healthy as they were when I was a little girl.
Yeah. Have you seen a regeneration with COVID and having no tourists for the last year? Able to measure or monitor any shift in the reefs or just in the fish population since this kind of break gifted to the bay?
Well, pre-COVID, as I mentioned, we're receiving so many people. You can imagine 400,000 people a year coming to a 4-acre park is really loving a bay to death. The turtles were having difficulty, not enough food because people were stepping all over the tidal flats, where their food was being devastated, and the species that were normally coming into the bay when I was young, we weren't seeing them for years and years. The corals were deteriorating, and so the stressors were very pronounced in the bay. The sunscreen, the chemical sunscreen in the bay was so concentrated that Dr. Craig Downs, who is one of the main toxicologists around the world, when he tested our bay, he told me, Cindi, your bay has the worst amount of oxybenzone I have seen in the entire world.
What?
2018.
Wow, that's crazy.
Devastated. I was devastated.
Wow.
So then 2000 and we had an aggressive campaign to remove chemical sunscreens at the bay. And in 2019, we found a drop in oxybenzone at over 93% because we're swapping sunscreens for mineral-based sunscreens, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide.
Yeah, let's educate our listeners a little bit. So if you're heading to Hawaii, kind of sunscreens that you want to be, bringing with you or using, if you could share with the audience really specifically what is more beneficial for the reefs and the ocean, the visitors, that would be really helpful.
So I just sent you this morning a little attachment. I can't share it on the screen because I don't have posting, but it says, first cover up, like I'm covering up now because I'm going to Kahalu'u right after our podcast. But also think zinc. Turn your when you're looking at sunscreen products, you want to look at the active ingredients in it. It should be zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. But zinc oxide is very important because it is a UVA protector. It protects and it's a physical barrier, so it doesn't enter your bloodstream. Whereas chemical sunscreens like octocrylene or avobenzone will actually enter your bloodstream and can cause a degradation to, like octocrylene, it will degrade to a carcinogen. So you want to stay away from the petrochemicals and just focus on zinc. And I say all you have to remember is think zinc when you're when you're looking for sunscreen, not only at the ocean but as you're hiking, because when you wash off in the shower, all of that water then eventually ends up in the ocean. So very important to do that.
Thank you for that. I know you met Kepa Molly from Lanai a while ago, and that seemed to be a really pivotal collaboration for you. Tell me a little bit about the work you've done with him and how that's flourished over the years.
Well, is like my brother. He is an ethnographer, and he was able to actually interview my dad and my kupuna here on this island to capture the stories of the place. And he was very instrumental um, in not only looking at our areas of influence, but connecting other areas that we were not aware of and what our ancestors were doing on different parts of the Kona Coast. And so he brought together this fabric of our family that included so many um, other ohana or other families uh, that also were very instrumental in the success of our community and the success of our survival here. So Kepa has been a blessing for not only my family, but families from all walks of life here, as he had studied and read so much of the history that he was able to make those connections for us, or we would have lost it, especially if my father, prior to my father passing, if Kepa did not um, take the time to interview him. So we really, when you're looking at people uh, like these special ethnographers that do come into the area and do oral history studies, it it really is, uh, like I said, not only a blessing, but we are grateful that we now have a library of history of our family. And and you and that's because when I was growing up, we didn't, it was by word of mouth. You listen to these stories, chants, you listen to the chants. But like Papa John wrote, fragments of history, because you only get bits of it. There wasn't anyone writing everything down. You're just hearing things. So when you have someone like that's willing to provide that kind of detailed history, where he doesn't interpret my dad's interviews, he actually writes the interviews exactly as my dad said them. So there is no changing in. I thought Robert Punihaole said this. Robert Punihaole actually said that. So when we look at different places, the true stories should always be part of that place and not a made up story, because it's so easy to make up a story. But
I think also people filter the stories through their own lens sometimes. And so you're not really getting an accurate picture. You know, when you share stories about people's lives or you share a history, or and I think that's happened over time throughout the world, you know, where a lot of facts have been misinterpreted or omitted conveniently, or you know, it's really hard to get the truth. So how beautiful that you're able to get that oral history for your family, that you're able to carry on this legacy of stewardship for your reefs, your bay, your community. And I really honor you because you not only are involved in the ocean community, but you're really involved in creating community for the entire area, right? You're going to have to speak a little bit louder because
I'm sorry.
lean in.
I'm leaning in.
There you go.
I think, Wendy, it's so important that we look at, as we move forward, all of the different um, cultures that are, and all of the diversity that comes together, and try to find a common goal and why, and find um, those fabrics that can really weave this beautiful pattern, and this material that includes everyone. You know, my when we were growing up, we had such a wonderful um, 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 not only history, but the raising of our families were from all different walks of life: Portuguese, Japanese, uh, Filipino, Hawaiian. We all worked together because we knew we needed to for survival. I look today at the same kind of working together. It can't be what we say, newcomers are different, and this Marshallese group is different. We all are different, but we have to look at a common goal of how we can work together to make it successful. And the visitor that comes here, we need to look at the visitor not as a problem, but as a solution. Have them become part of your team, and they want to. I see it every day. They want to be part of it. They just don't know how. But if you share it with Aloha and you ask them to join you, they will gladly do that. And I think we need more of that, not only in Hawaii, but in the world and in the United States, on the mainland. Let us try to listen to each other and find those common goals and work toward those, and teach our children how to be sustainable. And I know they want to learn. At fourth grade, they're already saying, Auntie, I can do this. We can do this. So I would look at our bay, and like you said, post COVID, no one in the bay, no one in Hawaii. The amount of algae and turtles and uh, marine resources have prolific. It's amazing. You're swimming in a bay that looks like an aquarium with so many, and babies too. So, and turtles that come up to graze on the algae that they haven't had for years.
Do you have any plans in place to kind of moderate or maintain the integrity now that you've gotten it back? Do you have any programs in place to preserve that area?
Well, it's really on October 10th.
Lean in, Nancy. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. On October 10th, Governor Ige opened up Hawaii to visitors. And so our program, our volunteer program, there's an area, it's a tidal flat that was uh, prior to COVID, was completely desecrated. Nothing there. All of the algae was gone. But post COVID, all the algae came back, and the turtles would be coming up onto the tide to graze. The migratory birds would be coming in to preen, and lots of baby fish because it's a safe area. So on October 15th, we just put up a barrier, voluntary barrier that said a turtle resting area and safety zone, because we found that visitors walking on it didn't know and understand how slippery it would be, so they were falling and getting hurt. But we put up a barrier that said, enter the bay this way, and it's safe for you. But this also is a turtle um, safety viewing area. And within a short 2 months, it truly became a viewing area. Turtles were coming right up to the sandy area eating. Our visitors were so excited because they were able to take photos of the turtles, and they were very respectful. They looked at the sign and actually went into the bay accordingly and safely. And today, now this is October, we put it up. Today, 99.9% of the people are respectful. They don't jump over the barrier. And I truly believe programs like this are really important to balance biodiversity with economic recovery, because you do need the visitor. They're coming to enjoy the ocean or the bay, but they're also having dinners at the restaurants, staying at a hotel or Airbnb.
Yeah, they support the economy, which is
the economy,
right.
and helping our children and our families survive. So it's not about keeping people out. It's about looking at how we can balance this healing that is happening and also providing the visitor a rewarding experience. And I tell you, visitors come and they're just so grateful that we are keeping them safe and out of harm's way. At the same time, I have reef friendly, mineral based sunscreen dispensers out. So when people bring a sunscreen from the mainland and say, oh, it says reef friendly, but it has octocrylene in it and octosalate, we say use our dispenser. Here it's zinc oxide, and and I'll swap you. Give me your container and I will take care of it. So if we could get that kind of message across to the people before they get here, I'm thinking at the hotels before they make their reservations, or Hawaii Visitors Bureau on the website, what are things you should bring to Hawaii? Those would be tremendous helpful information pieces we could share.
You have your work cut out for you, but I think you're doing an amazing job. So thank you. Thank you for your commitment to preserving Hawaii, preserving the reefs, and all the wildlife out there. Without people like you, we would lose it, and we were losing it. So I'm so grateful that we have you out there doing the work you're doing. Before we run out of time, I'd love to talk about your Keeper of the Bay documentary, how I found you in the first place, so that if people are interested, they can donate to this Kickstarter campaign to create this beautiful documentary about the Bay and about you, and help spread the word of preservation and aloha. And also, I think it's an important message that needs to be heard globally, not just in Hawaii, which is why this documentary I think would be so impactful and important. So tell me a little bit about it. Tell me how you got approached and how people can contribute?
Well, I worked with a producer um, 2 years ago, Ashley LaFaso. She's an ABC producer, and she actually did a story on sunscreen. She worked with Dr. Craig Downs and I about the importance of removing these chemicals from our not only from Kahalu'u Bay but other bays, Hanauma Bay and Ahihi on Maui and Wailea Bay on Poako on our island. And what a wonderful person, wonderful job. And I shared my story. I shared how important it is to not give up, to be able to continue the quest for a place that is so dear to not only myself, but so many kupuna and their makua, or the younger generations. And she fell in love with whole the whole project, and uh, and we were hoping that she was able to fly here in 2019 and be with Dr. Downs and I in November, but that fell through. But she always had it in her mind to do a story, not only about a Native Hawaiian um, here, but also about conservation and the importance of doing it with aloha. It's about compassion rather than conflict. We see too much of it all over the world all the time. And so her her love for this project, and as we talked to Susie, we we found that we had so much in common. Like you said, it's not only about the physical parts, but it's about the spiritual and the amount of um, passion that comes from that. And when you share your passion with others, they really take it in. You know, it's just like cooking. My dad would always say, and I do, you cook with love, and they'll eat your dish with love. It will be part of them.
They'll
And that
receive it.
and the receiving is really critical. The way you talk to people, it's not what you say, how you say it, all of these things. And so here we are now having a place in Hawaii in August to do a documentary that can share these things. And you know, in post COVID, we have over 100 little babies, corals growing in the bay because we didn't have that amount of people coming in and trampling all over the bay. We gave the bay a chance to rest. And Mother Nature is so beautiful. Within 2 months, she was able to help the start of healing herself. It doesn't take long for us if we give her a chance. And if we continue to give her a chance, she will be supportive of us.
Well, I'll put the link to Kickstarter in my description of the show so people can support your cause, support the environment, support your story. And before we go, I'd love for you to share. You know, what have you learned through this journey of preservation and through your history, your family history of being a steward of the land? What have you learned about yourself through the process?
I learned that important it is to be respectful and to be honest and have integrity. But at the same time, have that strength and tenacity to continue to do the work and be able to have the understanding and the common sense and relationship building to make sure that as you move forward, you can look at moving forward together without a lot of conflict. I truly believe, and that's what my dad always said, I ask you to do the best that you can, and that's all I can ask of you. And I always have in the back of my mind those words that I carry from him. So for me, it is those things that I feel so strongly that needs to be done. You know, like I said, the corals and the fish don't have a voice. We are their voices. And we need to listen to the land as the land will tell us what they need. And so as voices, we need to help protect them.
Definitely. Thank you for that share. It's been so wonderful having you on my show. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your story. If you guys are going to Hawaii, remember to really pay attention to the sunscreens you're wearing and be mindful if you're in the water of where you're stepping. You know, be very, very mindful. Yeah, so to my audience, thank you so much for being with us today for this beautiful conversation. I hope you take care of yourselves, love yourselves, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time.